it's Felicia and Isaac. So today I'm going to be doing my labor and delivery story. So let's get started. So I went into labor on Saturday the 28th of May and I had Isaac on Sunday the 29th of May. So I'm going to backtrack to a couple of days before I went into labor on Thursday the 26th of May. That was the day I had my midwife appointment. So while I was waiting for my midwife appointment, I checked my weight and I found out I lost almost half a kilo. So when I saw the midwife, she asked me if I've got the whooping cough vaccine done yet, and I told her I completely forgot about it and I was planning on going to the GP that afternoon to get it done, but she said she could do it for me, so she did that for me. So after she did the vaccine, she checked my blood pressure, everything was fine, and then she got me to lay on the table. She checked the baby's heart rate. It was between 130 to 140 beats per minute. She checked the fundal height, which was 35 centimeters, and then she also checked the baby's position. His head was 2/5 engaged into the pelvis and everything else looked fine. So I asked the midwife about my weight loss. Is it normal to lose a bit of weight towards the end of your pregnancy? She said there's no facts behind it, but a lot of women that she's looked after, towards the end of their pregnancy, right before they go into labor, they lose a bit of weight. If not, they don't gain any weight at all. So that gave me some hope that labor was coming really soon. And then after my midwife appointment, I went and picked up Jacob from school, and then I took Dash and Kitana, our Siberian Huskies, to the dog park, and we stayed there for about 2 hours. The whole time I was just walking laps around the dog park, and then after that we went home. So the next day was Friday the 28th of May, so the day before I went into labor. I went to the dog park once again with Dash and Kitana and walked around for 2 hours and then went home. And then later on that night I had a full-on bloody show. I was bleeding quite a bit and all my mucus was red in color. So I started to get really excited that labor was coming really soon. So that night I finally decided I had to pack my hospital bag and I couldn't leave it for any much longer because labor looked like it was coming really soon in the next couple of days, and I really had to pack it. I also wrote a list of all the things that I'm going to need when I go into labor to take to the hospital as well, like my phone charger, my camera, and my laptops and things like that. So I wrote down a list of all the things I would have to pack, and then I went to bed. So the next day was Saturday the 28th of May, so the day I actually went into labor. When I woke up in the morning, I was still bleeding. Also, I was having Braxton Hicks contractions, but they did feel a little bit stronger than normal. And also, I was having a lot of lower back pain and cramps as well. But I still got dressed and we went out to go bananas, which is a play center for Jacob's birthday. His birthday was on Wednesday the 25th of May, so we were going to celebrate it on the weekend. So we spent the day there, and the whole time I was still having a lot of the same symptoms, still having the Braxton Hicks contractions, the cramping, the lower back pain, and it was also getting a bit painful to walk during the time I was having the Braxton Hicks contractions. I was just having a lot of pain in my legs, so I just sat down the whole time while we were there. So after we went to the play center, we went and picked up some Krispy Kreme donuts for Jacob's birthday because that's what he wanted for his birthday cake. After that, we came home and had a little rest. So between 5:30 and 6:30, I started to get ready for Jacob's birthday dinner, and I noticed I was getting contractions, and they were quite regular. They were about 15 minutes apart and lasting for 30 seconds. I didn't tell Matthew or my mum about it. My mum also came over, and I knew if I told them, they would have cancelled the birthday dinner and just waited till my labor started, and I really didn't want to ruin Jacob's last birthday being an only child. So I finished getting dressed and we left around 6:20 to go to Jacob's birthday dinner at the restaurant. So while we were ordering food around 7 o'clock, 7:30, we got our food and I was eating. I didn't have much of an appetite, but I was trying to eat because I knew I would most likely go into labor soon and I would not get another chance to eat. So I was trying to force myself to eat, and I started to time my contractions, and at that point they were still quite regular. They were about 10 minutes apart at this point and lasting anywhere from about 35 to 45 seconds. And I told my mum about it, that my contractions were 10 minutes apart, and she said most likely I'm going to be in labor tonight. So here I am still at the restaurant eating my food while I'm in labor. So after I had dinner, at this point I had to tell Matthew that my contractions are about 10 minutes apart, lasting for about 35 to 45 seconds. So we decided to quickly do Jacob's birthday cake, which was the donuts with the candles. So everyone sang him happy birthday, and I started to time my contractions, and they were about 5 minutes apart at this point and lasting still for about 35 to 45 seconds. So after everyone had a donut, we got everything ready to go, and I apologize to everyone saying that I'm in labor and I have to go. We have to go grab my hospital bag and we have to go to the hospital. Everyone of course understood and said good luck to us and all that. So as soon as we got home, Jacob started opening all his presents, and I finished packing my hospital bag, getting my camera, my charger, my laptop and everything else ready. Matthew also fed Dash and Kitana before we left for the hospital. So around 9:30, my contractions were 5 minutes apart and lasting anywhere from 45 to 55 seconds, and they were starting to get really painful at this point. So about 10 o'clock was the time that we left home to go to the hospital. So I was very lucky that Mum came up for Jacob's birthday dinner. So she spent the night at our place with Jacob to look after him overnight. And she told me if I didn't have the baby overnight, then she would take Jacob back to her place just so she can watch him. If not, if I do have the baby, then she'll come and see us in the morning at the hospital. So we left for the hospital almost 10 o'clock, and around 10:30 we got pulled over by cops on the M4, like the motorway, because Matthew was speeding. So when the policeman came to the window, I was having a contraction at this point and I was in quite a bit of pain and I couldn't sit down. I had to lift my bottom off the seat just to help with the contraction pain. And then Matthew told the policeman I was in labor, and we were on our way to the hospital, and the policeman did not believe I was in labor at all. He just thought I was faking it, and he started to ask me all these awkward questions like, have I had my bloody show? How many pregnancies have I had? Is this my first or my second or third or whatever? And also other questions like, what hospital am I going to? He also asked for my last name so he could call the hospital to find out if we were actually going to the hospital. And then he told Matthew that he's going to get a fine. And I asked the policeman, is he going to lose his license? And he said no. So I'm like, I'll wait for you to hurry up and do all this and then we'll go. He's like, would you like me to call an ambulance? I'm like, no, because that's not going to take me to the hospital that I'm supposed to go to. So anyways, after that, he let us go, and he actually sent the fine in the mail. So Matthew got a $260 fine in the mail, and the whole time he didn't even believe I was in labor and I was just faking it. So anyways, we got to the hospital around 11 o'clock at emergency, and then I told him I've already called the birthing unit, so they knew that I was coming. So at that point I was feeling really uncomfortable from the contractions, and I really didn't want to wear my shoes. So I took my shoes off and walked up to birthing unit with no shoes on, and the floors were really dirty, but I didn't care because I was in so much pain and I was so uncomfortable. So I got Matthew to carry all my things and I walked up to birthing unit. So we got into one of the rooms and the midwife came and checked me around 11:30 p.m. and I was about 5 to 6 centimeters dilated. I didn't think I would be that far along because it was only 2 hours since my actual labor started and I was already almost 6 centimeters dilated. So every 15 to 20 minutes the midwife came and checked on me just to check if everything was okay, and also checked the baby's heart rate using the fetal Doppler. So between 12 and 12:30 a.m. I was in so much pain, the contractions were getting so much worse, and also the baby was on a nerve, so he was causing pain down my left leg, and it felt like dry ice or like freezer burn, like someone putting something really cold on my leg, and it was becoming really painful, and it wasn't going away between my contractions. I had this same pain when I was in labor with Jacob, but the pain was going away between my contractions, but this time the pain wasn't going away, and during my contractions it was getting so much worse where I was thinking it would probably be less painful if I just chopped my leg off. So So anyways, the midwife saw how much pain I was in, so she turned on the shower and I sat in the shower for a little bit while she got a bath ready for me. It was helping a little bit, but it wasn't helping that much. So the midwife asked me if I wanted some drugs like morphine or anything like that, and I said yes, I would love to have something because this pain is getting really bad and I can't handle the pain anymore. So when the midwife came back, I thought she was coming back with drugs, but there was no drugs. She said she had to check how far dilated I was. So I hopped out of the bath, dried myself and put the hospital gown on, and then hopped back into bed. She checked how far dilated I was at 1:30, and I was 10 centimeters dilated, ready to push. At this point I was feeling so much pressure, and she asked if I wanted her to break my water, and I said yes. So she broke my water and she said to let it drain for about 5 to 10 minutes, and as I have my contractions I'm allowed to push. So my contractions also started to slow down to almost 5 minutes apart and only lasting for about 30 seconds. So this was going to make it harder for me to push. So around 2:30 I had been pushing for an hour and the baby was still all inside me. So I was really disorientated at this point. I had no idea what was going on because I was so tired and I was in so much pain from the contractions, and also the baby being on a nerve causing pain down my left leg. It was just so painful and I just had no idea what was going on. So around 2:30 was when the doctor came in with the midwife just to see how I was progressing, and I remember at that point I told the doctor that I refused to push until I got some drugs. Yet she did not get me any drugs. She put a cannula into my arm and she said that if I needed fluids I can use it for that. Other than that she wasn't going to give me any drugs, and she told me she'll prep me for a C-section if I wanted to. So I really didn't want to have a C-section at that point, so I thought I would have to put more effort into pushing. So as much effort as I was already putting into pushing, I put in like twice the amount of effort. And then 40 minutes later, this beautiful baby boy was born. So this is Isaac Graham. He was born on the 29th of May at 3:06 a.m. He was 2,544 grams and he was 48 centimeters tall, and his head circumference was 35 centimeters. And he's perfect. Well, I think that's about it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. Bye!